This week, addressing the alarming intersection of gun violence and kids.
I pray for these kids every day when I get up.
Plus, a bodega owner savagely beaten on Coney Island.
He hit me straight up.
And a wild, caught-on-camera chase in Midtown that left an NYPD officer injured. Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. Here are the crimes across the 5 boroughs. First up, in Brooklyn, Fox 5 Lisa Evers looks at the impact of gun violence on kids, teens, and their families across the city.
It's not like time heals. As years go on, as you acquire more, as you do more, it's always that one person missing. And you always feel that missing part.
It's been 15 years since Odessa Napper Williams lost her son Andrell to gun violence. 15 years coping with an unimaginable loss.
It has been my strength to keep his name alive, to keep his legacy alive, to just keep the world remembering him. Everything I do is in remembrance of him.
Sadly, it's a pain even more parents have endured in recent years. Numbers from the NYPD are alarming. In 2017, there were 75 shooting victims under the age of 18. By 2022, that number doubled to 153. Makeshift memorials have become an all too familiar sight. The fear is real.
I pray for these kids every day that when these children walk out their door, to God to protect them.
It's not just New York City. Across the U.S., firearms have now surpassed motor vehicles as the leading cause of death among kids and teens, according to researchers at the University of Michigan. Pediatricians here in the city are seeing the harsh reality firsthand.
Since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, we have seen about 185% increase in the number of gunshot wound patients that we are treating here at Jacobi.
Dr. Noe Romo is the director of pediatric inpatient service at Jacobi Medical Center.
A couple of years ago, we did a study in our emergency room just surveying children that came into our emergency room ages 11 to 17. And what we found was that close to 50% of those respondents reported knowing somebody who was killed in the past year. Close to 60% reported hearing gunshots nearby in the last month. So the impact that has, right, on a developing brain and on a child is significant, and it's something we don't talk about enough.
Dr. Romo believes the problem needs to be addressed as a public health crisis. At Jacobi, he serves as medical director of the Stand Up to Violence program.
Here at Jacobi, we've been able to establish the Stand Up to Violence program, which is a hospital-based violence intervention program, which encompasses a team of social workers, physicians, and community outreach workers to really respond to patients who are victimized by violent trauma.
As a pediatrician, all of us are tasked with trying to keep kids healthy and safe.
At Montefiore, Dr. Alyssa Silver is an associate professor of pediatrics at the Children's Hospital. While it isn't a trauma center like Jacobi, she's also seeing the impact there.
We've actually had several parents tell us, when we're talking about nutrition and exercise, that parents are afraid to let their kids go out and play because of the rise in gun violence in certain neighborhoods.
Dr. Silver's focus is on prevention and advocating for safe firearm storage.
It kind of naturally flows with the counseling that pediatricians give when we talk about the other safety issues like car seats and bike helmets. This is just one other thing. So you have your guns stored securely. That's it. No judgment, just kind of these are the things that we need to do to keep your kids safe.
Both doctors agree much more needs to be done.
I feel like it's something that we know that there hasn't been a lot of resources devoted to trying to prevent firearm-related injuries, and especially the fact that it's now the #1 cause of death in kids.
I think as a city, we can do a lot more in terms of expanding these types of programs to be present in all of the trauma centers in our city.
It's a sentiment shared by Odessa Napper Williams, who now devotes her time helping other families navigate the emotional trauma after losing a child to gun violence.
Supporting, hand-holding, coddling mothers, just being the spirit of presence amongst them, sending them balloons when it's a transition day, flowers on their birthday.
But Mrs. Napper Williams recognizes that especially for mothers, it's a wound that never truly heals.
Then over in Manhattan, a 75-year-old pickpocket is caught on camera at a grocery store in East Harlem.
I wasn't surprised, but that it happened to me, it was a shock.
While she didn't want her identity known, this theft victim wanted fellow New Yorkers to know that pickpocketing is still a very real crime. On Friday afternoon, March 31st, the victim and her mother were shopping inside an East Harlem grocery store when she says a group of women got a little too close in the produce section.
There was another elderly lady who kept rubbing up against me, which I kept looking towards her. Supposedly she dropped something on the floor. So that was her way of, trying to, make like if she was doing something to reach into my purse.
Store surveillance shows the incident. The victim is in tan and says the woman who kept rubbing against her is wearing the blue hat. The victim believes that the women on both sides of her were accomplices, adding that one was a distractor while the other stole her wallet from her purse.
Basically, when I looked up, lifted my body, that's when I noticed my purse was open. And I told my mother, I started screaming. I said, my wallet, my wallet.
Inside was $300, money she had gotten from the bank nearby just before going in the store. She believes the suspects may have followed her. The surveillance video helped police make an arrest. The NYPD has charged Michelle Chacon of Corona, Queens with grand larceny. Chacon was arrested for the same crime in 2000 and 2001. Police also say that Chacon is 75 years old. Police say grand larceny reports rose slightly last month. The victim's money and personal info inside the wallet are gone. The quick arrest is comforting, but feelings of violation remain.
Blaming myself for not being aware, more cautious. And then, there was sadness.
Now we head to Brooklyn, where a Coney Island bodega owner is brutally beaten in what might have been an anti-Muslim attack.
He hit me straight up with the baton bar, back to back.
58-year-old Jamal Suwaid describes what police say was an unprovoked attack. Authorities say last Saturday afternoon, while working inside his Coney Island bodega, 4 men walked in, started yelling racial slurs, and then assaulted him.
He jumped into the counter and he blocked me. And when you get hit in the head, so you cannot fight, you cannot do anything.
The attack was violent to say the least. At least one had a metal pipe repeatedly hitting Suwaid in the head and face. The suspects took off. Bloodied and bruised, Suwaid called 911 and was rushed to a nearby hospital. These pictures were taken by his wife after he was admitted in stable condition. Doctors put 8 staples in his head and his eye was swollen shut. Police say the suspects took off in a white pickup truck after the attack. The NYPD says the incident is being investigated by the Hate Crime Task Force as a possible bias attack. Suwaid says he's never seen the men before. Originally from Yemen, he's been a business owner in Brooklyn for 23 years, having been recognized by city officials for his work in the community. Still in pain, he was back behind the counter by Monday and was frank when we asked him why.
I have to survive. You stay home, who's pay your bill?
Once again, police say the suspects took off in a white pickup truck shortly after the attack. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. That number is 1-800-577-TIPS.
Back in Manhattan, an NYPD officer is struck and injured by a fleeing vehicle in Midtown.
According to the NYPD, it was just before 5 p.m. The NYPD says it started with a traffic stop at 38th and 7th. They went after the driver, they say, after that driver ran a red light. They ended up going after him until he hit a cop on a sidewalk, basically. We caught some of that on video as well. It happened between Park and Madison on 30th. Then a business was hit. The business, a restaurant called the Mason Jar. We talked to someone inside that restaurant, someone who works in the area, and someone who saw all of this from his balcony. He lives in an apartment on 30th, just above where it happened.
Everyone was screaming gunshots, but we didn't know, so we ran to the back and we were hiding in the kitchen.
Yeah, I was in my room, I was laying on my bed, and out of nowhere I just started hearing some noises.
You've seen a car drive through or down the sidewalk. It's unexpected.
Back out here live. So this is East 30th between Park and Madison. Around Lexington is where the NYPD says that driver crashed with another vehicle and then, according to police, took off on foot, leaving that vehicle behind. Again, right now they're looking for that driver. The officer ended up at Bellevue Hospital. Steve and Natasha were told that he is in stable condition. When you look at everything that happened here tonight, it is amazing that nobody was badly hurt.
And up in the Bronx, shocking video shows a man smashing an NYPD cop in the head with a bottle.
Well, an NYPD officer recovering after being attacked in the Bronx. Video shows the suspect walking up to the officer in the Kingsbridge section and hitting him over the head with a bottle. She was taken to the hospital right there. Wow, police say it happened Monday afternoon. Here's another look at it on video. While officers were inspecting smoke shops right there, out of the blue. Totally unexpected. With the city sheriff's department, sources say the suspect, Jose Garcia, has 6 prior arrests. This time, He's charged with assault, criminal possession of a weapon, and harassment.
Leaving the city now, on Long Island, a drunk driver beats another motorist to death after a crash.
It was a minor crash that ended in the murder of 54-year-old David McKenzie, who was just steps away from his home in Baldwin.
Very good family.
And on Monday, his family showed up at court as his accused killer, 26-year-old Patrick Justine, who has a history of violent crimes, pleaded not guilty.
It's a wound that's going to take a very long time to heal.
Police say Justine just purchased the car he was driving for $4,000. It was unregistered, uninsured, and he was allegedly drunk with no headlights on when he blew a stop sign and then crashed into the side of Mackenzie's van on Saturday night. And despite Mackenzie telling Justine he'd walk away without calling police, prosecutors say Justine still chased him down, screaming, quote, "I should kill you."
Began to violently assault him and kick him to his death, then rummaged through his pockets after the victim lied lifeless on the ground, went back to his car, rummaged through the victim's car. After he got what he wanted, he walked eastbound with this girl and was stopped by the police after a short pursuit.
And police say that girl, 19-year-old Aisha Pitt, is Justine's significant other. She was arrested on the night of the crash for false personation and criminal possession of a controlled substance. And then again today, after she got violent. Justine's attorney says his client is a friend, brother, and son.
Right now, these are just allegations. We're not looking to rush to any judgment.
Now, Justine is being held without bail. He faces a max of 25 years to life in prison if convicted on the top count. He's due back in court next week. Now, police say anyone who is involved in an accident should always stay in their car and call 911.
And finally, a Long Island man learns his fate for spreading deepfake porn of underage women.
If you're using social media, be careful what you post and who can access it.
A warning from Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly after the sentencing of Patrick Carey.
He took photos and manipulated them and twisted them into the disgusting images that they became.
The 22-year-old will have to register as a sex offender and spend the next 6 months in jail, followed by 10 years of probation. Carey pleaded guilty last year to charges, including promoting a sexual performance by a child, harassment, and stalking. According to the indictment, he shared a sexually explicit photo of an underage teen, as well as deepfake images or altered photos of more than a dozen classmates to suggest they had engaged in sex acts. He'd post the photos to porn sites with the victims' names, addresses, and phone numbers, and Carey would encourage other users to harass them.
He tried to make them fear for their safety and their future. But he underestimated their bravery.
During the sentencing, Carey apologized for what he called unnecessary trauma, but one of the victims addressed him in a statement saying, quote, "You disgust me, you have hurt me, you have changed me. I will never forgive you." As it stands, there are no laws in New York State to address so-called deep fakes, but proposed legislation dubbed the Digital Manipulation Protection Act would close the loophole.
Under the proposed legislation, if an individual distributes a sexually explicit depiction of a child, they will face a felony charge and up to 7 years in prison.
While AI, or artificial intelligence imaging, can help in many ways, experts suggest nationwide regulation and fear a dangerous side of this tool could lead to misuse.
If we don't slow down and take it seriously, we could go in a very bad direction very quickly.
Donnelly plans to seek sponsors to pass the legislation.
And that's this week's Crime in the City.